Are you looking at a house you can't afford? We're going to talk about that today on Just Mortgages. You're going out looking for houses. It's a Saturday. Honey, let's go out and look at houses. You go out and start looking. You don't know if you can afford. You know that you're making a $1,500 payment now, but that house over there is $300,000. Is that going to be the same payment? I don't know. So you haven't been pre-qualified. So you go out and find that house, you fall in love with it, you have the realtor write a contract. You submit the contract to your lender at the same time that you submit your loan application. Lo and behold, you don't qualify because of your debt ratios. That the payment's too high, you can't afford it. That is the nightmare that we see in the marketplace when people go out hunting for a property without being pre-qualified first. So I always raise my hand and say the first thing we want to do is go out and get our credit card. So I say when they have their credit card, they're more apt to be able to purchase. And I always tell the realtors that, look, your borrowers are empowered. You want to empower your borrowers, get them pre-qualified. Now the realtors know the drill on this, that they need to make sure that their buyers are pre-qualified, but a lot of them will continue to show houses even though they don't have a letter showing that they've been qualified and all their assets and credit and cash have been reviewed. So the first thing I say to all of my borrowers is make sure that you get pre-qualified. Do not go out and hunt for a house, do not go under contract for a house until your lender has given you the okay and given you a maximum payment. See, that's another thing too, that payment. Well, you may have a $300,000 house and you were told that you can maximize your debt to income at $2,000 a month. Well, is that $300,000 house going to be a $2,000 payment? I don't know. So you're going to have to make sure that you go in there and verify that with your lender. So what I tell people is find the house, call us, give us the address, we'll work a payment up. It's that simple. So that makes sure that you don't go out and contract. So when you do contract, you've got that thing secured and you can close on time. So let's talk about debt ratios. We call them DTI, or debt to income. So conventional loans, you cannot exceed 50%. Okay, 50% of your gross income. Example, $2,000 a month. You make $2,000 a month, 50% of that's $1,000. So you cannot have all of your total payments, your house payment, your car payment, your minimum on your credit card payments cannot exceed 50% of your gross income, period. You cannot exceed that, it will not get approved even if you have an 800 credit score. Can I put more money down and exceed the debt ratios? The answer is no. Those debt ratios are hard and fast. Now if we go to an FHA loan, now we're at 54.99%, almost 55%. So why would somebody go into that has a high credit score go into an FHA loan? Because maybe their debt ratios need to be 52% or 53% to get the deal done, right? And get them into that house. So that's why you'd go with an FHA loan. VA or Veterans Administration loans are even higher than that. They're up 63, 64% debt to income ratio. And that's no down payment. But you know the interesting part of the VA loans? They have the lowest foreclosure rate than any loans in the marketplace. They have zero down, highest debt ratio allowance, and they have the lowest foreclosure rate. So let's say that our debt ratios are 52% and you got to have this one house. Well, we look at the credit. Let's look at that credit and figure out, is there something that we can pay off, that we can reduce the payment down on? So maybe you have a $5,000 balance on your car payment that we could get paid off at closing and lower that debt to income ratio down, because you can do this at closing. It doesn't have to be done prior to closing to get those debt ratios down. Can you buy out the LPMI? And I talked about that in a prior show, is lender paid mortgage insurance. Get rid of the PMI on it to see if that lowers your debt ratio below the maximum limit. A lot of different strategies to do so to be able to utilize that. Are we calculating the income correctly to make sure we look at that? Is there any other income that we don't know about? Do you have other income that you're not providing to us that you've received? Maybe you just got a raise and it's not showing on the pay stub that we have. Or you're going to get a raise and then we can know that down the road in 60 days when you buy a house, we can use that higher income. So make sure you communicate with your lender and make them aware of any increases in pay or any other income that you have that we can utilize to calculate a lower debt ratio. Student loans, that's an interesting thing. So let's talk about that. See, in the past on student loans, if they were deferred more than 12 months, you did not have to count any payment against your debt ratio. That has changed. So now it's a 1%, we call it the 1% rule. Let's say, for example, you owe $5,000 and 1% of that's $50. So that means we'd have to count $50 a month against your debt ratio. Well, you know you're not gonna have to pay $50 a month when it starts going into repayment. It's only $25. Well, if you get a letter from your lender stating that it's only $25, we can use that. The 1% is the non-documentation one, where we don't have to go to the lender to get a payment letter to show them. So that 1% is what we utilize. Now, regarding condominiums, let's talk about HOA dues. HOA dues are added into your debt-to-income ratio calculation. Homeowners association dues, those pay for all the pretty plants and the flowers and all that, and then also pays for the roof. If that place burns down, your HOA dues pay for an insurance policy to rebuild your condo. So that's where those HOA dues go, and that has to be calculated. So if I've got somebody coming in with an $80,000 or $100,000 condo, if one exists, which there are areas where they do exist, $80,000 or $100,000 condo, their payment may be $1,200, $1,300 a month because of the condo dues, the HOA. So we have to look at those and figure out. And another one big thing to look at dealing with condominiums is whether they're warrantable or non-warrantable. That's another area. I happen to be an expert. I learned a long time ago how to decipher condominiums, and they have to be, warrantable means that Fannie or Freddie will allow financing on those type of properties. And there's different criteria. You can't have one person that owns more than 10% of the complex. You can't have litigation. You can't have issues with deferred maintenance, things like this, okay? And why would that count and why would they care? Why would a borrower even care whether there's 10% owner, one person owns more than 10%? Because if that 10% owner goes bankrupt, he dumps all of his properties all at once, your values just dropped because the comps have been reduced substantially. So they need to be concerned about that. Fannie and Freddie is, so it actually protects the borrowers sometimes from getting into a complex that may have some issues at some point in time in the future. There's nothing more frustrating than getting under contract and not being able to perform on that contract. Get with your broker, make sure they calculate the payment on that property that you are placing an offer on to make sure that they can close that loan. We do that on every transaction because at Just Mortgages, we do our homework. If you like this video and you're looking to buy your first or next home, give us a call or visit our website.